Hello, you're listening to the Shetland Times podcast of me, your host, Marjolein, and this week I'm joined by Niki Thomson. Hello, Niki.
Hi, Marjolein.
I should also mention straight off, we're also joined by Niki's dog, Bella. Hi, Bella. Hello, Bella. So if you hear a pitter-patter or a dog, that's Bella. How are you, Niki?
I'm good, thanks, Marjolein. Yep.
Had a nice Christmas?
Yes, it's been lovely. My parents came for Christmas and my mum was 80 on Boxing Day and she wanted to spend her 80th birthday in Shetland.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah,
they
it's
came
lovely.
up from Bradford?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was going to say you're originally from Bradford. Introduce yourself to listeners, please.
Well, okay. Well, I'm a Sooth Moother, an incoming to Shetland, but I've lived here for over 30 years. I was, which people never guess that because of my accent, which is sort of a watered down Yorkshire accent. I was actually born in London. Spent the first 5 years of my life in Nigeria where my parents were teachers.
Wow.
And then when they came back from Nigeria, my dad got a job in Bradford, and that's what I would call my family home. And I was brought up in Bradford in Yorkshire. And that's where all the rest of my family are, there and thereabouts, round about Bradford. And I'm the only one that's strayed away.
So what brought you to Shetland? What enticed you here?
Well, of all my brothers and sisters, I'm the eldest of 6. They've all sort of remained close to home except for me, and I was always the one that was going off on adventure holidays to Scotland and things like this. I don't know what it was that attracted me, but I did it from a young age. After a bit of travelling, I got a job up here as the warden on Nos in 1987. Yeah, I've been here ever since, so I came on holiday and never went back.
I never knew you were the warden.
Yeah, that was my first job in Shetland, warden on Nos.
And I thought you came here to teach. Niki taught me when I was the ages 7 till 9.
That's right.
With the gap for the age of 8.
Yes, that was at Happy Hansel Primary, and the gap was when I went to teach in Canada and took my daughter, who was the same class as Marjolein, and we went to Canada to teach for a year, so I left Marjolein in the capable hands of a Canadian teacher. Yes,
he taught me the word. He taught me how to spell photograph. That's what I remember. Or did you teach me that?
No, it wasn't me.
It took a while. So that's amazing. So you originally came on a holiday and then you became the warden in Nos.
Yes, and the holiday was to Papastur. I had a friend who'd been here before and worked with the conservation volunteers.
So I should probably mention the dog was sniffing the microphone, so there may have been interference, but it'll be too cute to delete.
Yeah, so I went to Papastur to visit folk there and to do a bit of conservation work, and then went travelling for a little while. I was a bit of a late developer. I had a gap year in my mid-20s, and then wanted to come back to Shetland, so looked for a job in conservation, wildlife conservation, because that's what I was trained in.
Okay.
And I got the job with a friend as the warden on Nos, and just running the boat and doing all the seabird monitoring for a summer.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then after that, I wanted to stay in Shetland, and I went to Papastur and looked after somebody's croft for a winter. And then when they came back to the croft, I got a job as the first farming and wildlife advisor in Shetland. So, and that was sort of me getting established then. And I still meet folk today that I planted trees with over 20, well, let's have a think. Jessie, my daughter, is 27, and I was planting trees before she was born with people in Shetland, and I still meet those folk and I see those trees now, which is lovely, that are sort of nearly 30 years old.
Oh, that's nice. And that's also a nice first test, living on a croft all winter.
Yeah.
So if you can live in Papastur for winter, because I think a lot of people come here in the summer.
That's
and
right.
It's so nice and light.
Yeah.
But I like the darkness of the winter.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, the weather never really bothers me here at all. The only time I suppose it would ever bother me is if it's really, really wet and windy for prolonged periods of time, but you just get the right gear on and out you go, so
yeah,
it doesn't bother me at all.
And actually that's kind of fitting to talk about bad weather and dark times of year, because seeing as it's January, and I wanted to talk to you Because I was thinking about all the people that are starting their New Year's resolutions, turning over a new leaf, and you're about to embark on teaching more yoga.
Yes. Yeah. Yoga is one of my passions.
How did that begin?
Well, I suppose when I had my daughter, I worked as the farming and wildlife advisor, and then I had my daughter, and it wasn't really, conservation work wasn't really a job that was compatible with bringing up a child, because it was odd hours and odd places and that sort of thing. So I left that work, and then when she was about a year or so old, I was really feeling I needed to get back to things and get my brain cells working again. And so I looked for a different sort of profession that could be compatible with bringing up a child. And I decided to go into teaching, which both my parents are teachers, and I'd resisted going into teaching for over 10 years after I graduated from university. And I can remember my mum saying that she'd always thought I would be a teacher, and it just took me a while to realise it. So I went away when Jessie was 2. She and I went back down to Bradford for a year, and I did a year's teacher training.
Wow.
A postgraduate course, and I wasn't sure at that stage whether I was coming back to Shetland or not, but at the end of my course I got a phone call from the education department offering me a job at Happy Hansel. So I had an interview over the phone for a primary teacher job at Happy Hansel, and I got the job. So Jessie and I came back to Shetland and moved to Walls, and that's when we met you. Yeah. So Jessie was 3 then. She went into nursery at Happy Hansel, and I went to teach primary 3, 4, 5 at the school. So I think I'd Flirtier first.
Yeah, you've got all the 3 Robertsons.
Yeah, and I had Dirk as well. Oh no, I think I missed Flirtier, but I had Dirk.
Oh, because he was on your first school trip.
He was on my first school trip, which was very memorable because it was to go and see the Upelliar in Lerwick, and I was feeling very nervous about it because as I wasn't that young a teacher, I was 33 then, but it was my first school trip, and I'd got everybody round for the whole day safely and all getting back on the bus to come back to Walls, and Dirk was chattering away, not looking where he's going, and he walked into a lamppost and bloodied his nose. And we'd almost got everybody back on the bus, and anyway, so that was the start of my career with Robertsons and accidents and mishaps at school.
So many.
So many.
I could fill in those accent forms by the time I left primary school. But yeah, so how did you get into yoga? Yeah, so this is a roundabout story of how I got into yoga. So as teaching is a wonderful profession, but it's very, very stressful, and I think that's why I got into yoga, because I was looking for a way to relax and just to unwind a bit. So I started going to Hazel Thompson's yoga classes while I was teaching so this is over 20 years ago. And I just loved it. I just really loved it. It was, whatever stressful things were going on or whatever was going on in life, you could go to the yoga class and just have an hour and a half that was your time and relax and stretch and just feel physically and emotionally better. And it just, I've always been, I liked to walk and to be fit, but I'm not into high impact fitness. I've never been somebody that likes doing, I don't run unless I'm being chased by a coup. I completely understand. I don't like aerobics and that sort of thing, but yoga was something that I just really clicked with and I loved. So I did it for years, going to classes in Lerwick, and when Jessie was growing up, when she was young. And then once I moved into Lerwick to teach at the Anderson, then I'd always had this aim that I would retire when I was 50. It didn't actually happen quite like that, but I thought I would like to do yoga more once I'd finished teaching. And so I started training. Well, I did a foundation course with the British School of Yoga, first of all, just out of interest. Yeah.
And that took a year, and I got more and more interested.
Distance learning?
It was distance learning, yeah. So you had to go to classes and you had to train physically to do different postures and things, but also look into the sort of philosophy and the anatomy and that sort of thing of yoga as well. And it's just fascinating. So I then decided, after I'd done the foundation, to apply to do a diploma for teaching yoga. And I did that. It took me, because I did the studying distance learning while I was also teaching at the Anderson. And it took me about 4 years to complete that. And then once I'd completed it, I started teaching yoga in Shetland, and I've been doing that for the last several years. Yeah, and just love it. Yeah. And now I left school teaching in 2013, and since then, I mean, I've done a variety of things since then, but yoga has been my sort of mainstay. I've done care work and work for Women's Aid and that sort of thing, but I've always been teaching yoga, and now the only work I do is teaching yoga.
And that's a mixture of both classes and one-on-one as well?
Yeah, I do a variety of stuff. It's I do classes. I'm employed by the SRT to deliver classes at the Aith Leisure Centre, so that's great. So we're just about to start again next week, and I do 5 classes for adults there.
Yeah.
And then I also do classes for children, so the West Side Sharks, the swimmers, I do classes for them at the Aith Leisure Centre. But I also do private stuff, so it might be a one-on-one, or maybe a couple of people want me to do something specific, or it might be somebody who has a particular issue. It might be something that's a physical issue, or maybe they have trouble relaxing, or that sort of thing. And so somebody might ask me, can you do me a session of 4 classes to teach me different methods of relaxing and how I can, just focus myself a bit. Or somebody might say, I'm having real back trouble, and can you help me do some exercises that'll, help alleviate back pain? Or and then I do stuff in schools as well. Sometimes schools, I do stuff with classes. I've just done a 4-week session at Tingwall Primary School with their primary 6s and 7s, doing basic yoga postures and relaxation techniques. So.
Sounds like a really nice thing to do in school.
It's a brilliant thing to do for children.
When I was in New Zealand, I went to a yoga class in this really small town that I stayed in for like a month, but then every lesson would be based on someone would have said, I've got really bad shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, this week we'll work on this. It was quite nice because it was tailored to the community.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that happens. Like, there's a couple of people who practice yoga regularly at home, but they say to me every now and again, we really want to focus on such and such a posture, or like you say, focus on shoulders and loosening up shoulders, and I can go and tailor a class for them, which is good. And I love doing it, and it's beneficial for me, I mean, physically and mentally and emotionally. And you can have the most awful things going on and go into the yoga class, and once you learn to really focus on being in the present and being mindful, you can just for that hour and a half or however long it is, just let go of all that other stuff that's happening and just be in the present and exercise your body and focus your mind, and that's great. And the other stuff is, it's usually there when you finish the class, but you're in a better frame of mind usually to deal with it. Does
the mindfulness kind of come as you start the postures and the breathing? Or do you have to really focus on the mindfulness aspect of it as well, would you say?
The thing with yoga is it's hatha yoga that I practice. There's lots of different types of yoga.
Cool, I didn't know.
Yeah, no, there's
is it Bikram yoga?
That's the hot sweaty.
That's the only one
hot sweaty yoga, yeah. And there's Ashtanga yoga and I just call that jumpy around yoga, stuff that's more aerobic. Okay. Or there's yin yoga, which is very slow and passive and holding postures for long periods of time. Okay. But there's different types. So, and to be honest, I use a combination of things. But basically, in yoga, you're trying to increase your flexibility and your strength and your suppleness in your body, so that your body is comfortable in a seated position or a lying position or whatever, or and you use the breath to connect your mind and your body. So the breath is like the bridge between the two. So if you've got a really busy, frenetic mind, your breath is probably not terribly calm. So if you can really calm down your breath, deepen it and slow it, then you can also slow down your mind and calm your mind and focus it. But the same with your body. If you can tune your body to your breath, so you move in time with your breathing, and if that's nice and slow and measured, your body calms and can stretch and strengthen, and it also strengthens your mind too. It's good.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
I've never heard it described like that before. But it's good. It also makes it seem like an even better thing to do at the start of the year, because so many people will be thinking not just I want to be fitter, but also I want to get that project done. I want to actually like get on with that piece of writing I want to do, and something like that sounds like it will help you focus.
It's really focusing. It is. Yeah, and I find some people, I mean, yoga's not for everybody. It's just, you know, it's like some people might really enjoy doing circuits and that's their thing.
Yeah.
That's great. It's great, but that's not for everybody either. So it just depends if it suits you. But the one thing I would say about yoga is...
Oh, Bella.
Go lie down. Go lie down. The one thing I would say is that... folk sometimes are misguided. You can do it on any level, but folk think, oh, it's because you're not jumping around, you know, and you're not, well, you do raise your heart rate, but because you're not jumping around in aerobic, it's not doing you any good. But actually, it's very strengthening, and it does do you a lot of good. And some of the postures, they can be static, but if you hold them and you really work into the postures, you'll find that you're using a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And that it's quite deceptive. There's a posture called Dandasana, which is a seated posture, the staff posture, and you're just literally sitting upright with your legs stretched out in front of you, but in a nice upright posture. And it looks like you're doing nothing, but if you hold that posture for any length of time, you will know how hard your body is working. And it's very deceptive.
So all core strength as well.
Yeah, a lot of core strength stuff too.
I think you get lots of misguided things too online, because the one thing I know about yoga from that class was that it's about going as far as you can in the pose.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think I hate those, you always get in sitcoms and films, they go to yoga and they're just like basically turned into a knot or something.
Yeah. It's
bad, because I think it might put people off going to their first class.
I'm sure it does, but it's, you know, I am reasonably flexible, but I'm not incredibly flexible. There are folk who come to my classes who are much more flexible than me, but that doesn't matter. Yeah. That really doesn't matter. It's not about what somebody else can do and where they can put their leg or whatever. It's about being working with your body and what you can do, and it's not competitive at all. It doesn't matter what shape, what size, how stiff, how old, how young. It doesn't matter. Anybody can do it, and it depends. You will achieve at, you know, your level, but you'll always see progress.
Bella, sorry, there's a dog. This dog has been playing with us with her toy the entire way through this interview, so that's how you've heard it's Bella. But she's almost completely destroyed the toy now.
She has, yeah. It was a Christmas present.
So, I should ask, because it might be full, but how would you go about signing up to the yoga classes if you're interested?
Oh, the ones at Aith, yeah. You ring the West Mainland Leisure Centre and book through them. So it's done through the Leisure Centre. Yeah, and their classes are, there's an early and a late class on a Tuesday evening, and an early and a late class on a Thursday evening, and an afternoon class on a Thursday. The afternoon class tends to be a bit of a gentler class. Yeah. But every class I tailor to whoever comes. So nobody needs to be afraid of achieving or not achieving, or, yeah.
That's brilliant. It's a chance to try something new if you've not tried it before. I would love to try it again, because I've only done some in New Zealand, but it's amazing. It was really good.
Yeah, it is.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I found it really, really, like, the periods when you're told just to lie down on the floor and breathe, you're like, oh good.
Yeah.
It's it's a tough workout.
Yes, it can be. Yeah.
It shouldn't ever be sore, is what I meant.
No, it shouldn't hurt. You should feel like you're stretching, but there shouldn't be pain. It's not a, those folk who say, "Oh, no pain, no gain." It's not true in yoga.
No. And I also think it's good because I think a lot of folk like myself, before I did those classes in New Zealand, I did a lot from YouTube.
Yeah.
When I went to that class in New Zealand, she was like, "That's not a downward dog." And I was like, "That must be one of the most simple moves, and I'm doing it wrong with no idea." So I think it's quite important to actually get to a class and get some proper guidance.
It is. It's lovely. I would say yoga, I mean, compared to when I started doing yoga 20 odd years ago, when there was just really Hazel and Sandra that taught, I mean, there's a lot more people interested in it now. Which is great. And this is amazing because I'm involved with the Shetland Yoga Club, which runs classes through the summer at Islesborough. And each year we have a visiting teacher comes up to run workshops, and it's great for everybody to get something a bit different. And we've had some really interesting folk come up. But this May we've got a bit of a coup in that the kilted yoga man
I know what you mean.
is coming to Shetland to do classes for the Shetland Yoga Club. So watch this space if you're interested.
Do you think your membership's going to like skyrocket?
I think it will. I think we'll have to have seats for viewing.
I've seen a few videos of him and he is lovely as well.
He is lovely, yes he is. Well. But I don't quite know what impact he's going to have, but it'll be interesting.
No, you'll end up having to do a huge event to click him in.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for speaking to us today, Nikki.
Okay, thanks Marjolein.
Welcome, Joe, and thank you for listening.